Welcome to my channel, heroes! Thank you for turning into this tutorial. This will be my first video like this ever, so if you have some form of feedback, I'd appreciate a comment. Thank you very much! Let's first go over the basics. I will cover the following points. You can use the timelines in the description below to skip over to each part separately. What kind of game is Spellbreak? Core mechanics, gauntlets, sorceries and sorcery combinations, status effects, classes and their abilities, skill points, basic gameplay, movement and movement enhancement, consumables and the zone. Subscribe to PewDiePie. What kind of game is Spellbreak? Spellbreak is a RPG third-person battle royale game which features 6 different elemental spells: Frost, Fire, Stone, Wind, Lightning and Toxic. It also utilizes a class system, equipment and an inventory that's typical for a RPG style game. Out of 12 classes you can choose 2, which enables you to gain unique passive abilities and abilities that you can learn and upgrade later in the course of the game. For equipment you can gear up with 2 gauntlets, each in a separate hand, an activatable rune and 3 more items with passive abilities, meaning a belt, a pair of boots and an amulet. The game also features a quick buy inventory with 4 slots, so you can use items such as health potions and armor shards. By default you start with 100 HP and no armor. Standard max armor is set to 75, which can be filled up by using armor shards. There are also items in the game which can boost your max HP, armor and mana. Core mechanics, gauntlets. In order to use the available attacks in this game, you have to equip the specific gauntlet, which of 2 can be equipped simultaneously. Doing this makes the left and right click fire that specific type of attack at the player. A fire gauntlet will launch a fireball. Wind makes you send wind slashes, while using it on the ground will launch you upwards. Lightning will fire 3 lightning bolts at once. Frost enables you to shoot a long-range icicle that can be charged for additional damage and creating a frost path on the ground. Stone creates a fissure that travels along the ground and hits enemies along its path. And Toxic makes you shoot 4 small poison projectiles that damage on contact or leave a poison puddle on contact with terrain. Those attacks are called spells, which will also drain mana, so always keep an eye on your mana bar. Because when your mana bar is empty, you will get a 2.5 seconds recharging penalty till your mana is full at 100 again. Sorceries. Each gauntlet also comes along with a sorcery that can be used off cooldown by pressing the Q key for your left gauntlet and the E key for your right gauntlet. Unlike your normal spells and attacks, sorceries will not consume mana. You can create the following sorceries. Fire will create a flame wall that damages people touching it. Wind will create a tornado at a targeted location that can damage nearby players and drag them in. Lightning creates a thunder that damages and shocks the first enemy. Frost creates a blizzard around you that freezes players for a short duration. Stone holds a boulder at the chosen location that grows in size as it travels and explodes on impact, while Toxic makes you throw a toxic bomb that leaves a cloud that damages players over time upon contact. For example, if you equip a Stone Gauntlet on your left hand and the Wind Gauntlet on your right, you can use the Wind Gauntlet with right click to either attack or launch yourself upwards while using your left click to damage enemies with a fissure. Since you're able to equip 2 gauntlets, you can also have 2 sorceries available. You are able to switch gauntlets since you have 4 item slots in which you can also place gauntlets and other items. You can therefore have a total of 6 gauntlets in your inventory. However, in order to use more than 2, you have to switch out a gauntlet, which will automatically put your new sorcery on cooldown. You should also keep in mind that only the left gauntlet can be switched with the inventory keys. It is however viable usually to carry more than 2, since some gauntlets are stronger in close or long range and each have their unique powers. Sorcery combinations. As previously said, you have 2 gauntlets you can use at the same time, which you can also combo quite effectively. If for example you run Fire and Toxic, you can use your Toxic Gauntlet sorcery to create a Poison Cloud. When you then either shoot a Fireball or set a Flame Wall into it with your Fire Gauntlet, you get Dragonfire. Since a lot of people run the Wind Gauntlet almost at all times due to the ability to catapult you high in the air, you could also combine the sorcery Whirlwind by either hitting it with a Fireball or placing a Firewall into it with your Flame Gauntlet. It will then create a Burning Tornado. Very cool. These are only a few combinations, but there are a lot more to use in the game. Like a Toxic Tornado, a Frozen Boulder, or a big ass meteor. And so on. But not every element is combinable, for example. You can also counter other players' elements. For example, if you shoot wind on a flame wall, the fire will go out. Status effects. There are currently 2 status effects out there, which you also see above your mana bar, as well as other buffs and benefits. One status is Freeze and the second is Shock. To freeze someone, you use the Frost Gauntlet primary tag to create an ice path under the target. When you then either shoot Wind Slashes, hit the ground under him with your Stone attack, or use the Toxic and Wind Gauntlet sorcery, the player will freeze for 3 seconds and is unable to move or perform actions. You can also use your Frost Gauntlet sorcery at close range to freeze a bunch of people around you. But keep in mind that frozen enemies take reduced damage, so time your attacks correctly. Shock is an effect that denies players to use abilities or interrupts current ones from being cast, but they are still able to move. You create the status effect mainly with your Lightning Gauntlet by using your sorcery ability or your primary attack with different elements. For example, a Lightning Tornado, a Electrical Poison Cloud, or Shocking Green Toxic Puddles. Classes and their abilities. You can choose a combination of 2 of the existing 12 classes currently available in the game. These being Bulwark, Conduit, Crackshot, Frostborn, Pyromancer, Scavenger, Scholar, Scout, Stone Shaper, Tempest, Toxicologist, and Zealot. Each class has 4 total abilities, called Scrolls, which are passive skills with their own unique strengths, weaknesses and requirements. The first is the Starting Scroll, which will automatically start with when choosing your classes by pressing the B key. The other 3 scrolls can be learned and upgraded upon collecting skill points, which you will get when entering a new zone. You can also collect them from so-called mana vaults all around the map, marked with a yellow ring around them on the map and minimap. Each scroll except the starting scroll can be upgraded up to 3 times, so you can either specialize in a certain skill if you happen to get lucky and find multiple, or you spend your points more across all the other skills. I will now go over the starting scrolls of each class, while you can check out the additional skills you can acquire in-game on screen. Bulwark. Starting scroll, Fortify. If you have any armor, regenerate 5 armor every 10 seconds. Conduit. Starting scroll, Lightning Fast. Increases sprint speed by 20%, but breaks briefly when you attack or take damage. Crackshot. Starting scroll, Empower. Deals 30% more spell damage with a single spell. After casting, it takes 10 seconds to become empowered again. Frostborn. Starting scroll, Cold Snap. Every 30 seconds set your over armor to 50. It shatters after taking any damage. Pyromancer. Starting scroll, Phoenix Rebirth. Resurrect when you are exiled with 50% HP, but only once. Scavenger. Starting scroll, Finders Keepers. Chests you open contain 1 additional item. Scholar. Starting scroll, Updated Translations. Decreases rune cooldown by 20%. Scout. Starting scroll, Foresight. See upcoming shrine locations. Stone Shaper. Starting scroll, Thunder. Targets lose an additional 20% armor when damaged. Tempest. Starting scroll, Updraft. Become immune to all tornadoes and launch skyward when entering them. Toxicologist. Starting scroll, Corrosion. Targets you hit lose 5 armor every 5 seconds for 15 seconds. Zealot. Starting scroll, Frenzy. When you are at or below 35 HP, increases your spell damage by 25% and sprint speed by 20%. To begin with, I would recommend going Scavenger, since it will help you in any situation and makes you gear up the fastest. You can then choose whatever else you prefer, usually Pyromancer is recommended, due to the Rebirth starting scroll. Skill points. In order to get skill points, you have to either find mana vaults or get in a new safe zone, which I explain later. You can find the vaults in a light dome all around the map. Each time you gather a vault, you have a chance to loot up to 4 skill points per vault, as well as other items. Keep in mind that you need to activate the mana vaults for 20 seconds first, which can be very risky depending on where you are and how many enemies are near you, since the activation can be heard quite far. Once you collect a skill point, you will get a pop-up telling you to choose a skill. You can now choose between 2 randomly selected skills that you can learn or upgrade of the 2 classes you have chosen. By pressing the F1 key for your first class you have selected, or the F2 key for your second class. If you can't assign the specific symbols from your scrolls, you can also open the scroll menu with the B key to see the effects you get from the scrolls. Like I said, which skill you get to learn or upgrade is entirely random, but this is why it's so addictive actually. Once you get around where you have a bunch of good scrolls, you'll know what I mean. If you run Scavenger and Pyromancer, you may for example have the option between Appraise level 1, showing items around you in a 50 meters radius, which is pretty neat when looting bigger places, and Ignite level 1, which will set players on fire with your attacks, dealing 2 HP per second for 3 seconds, which is a good combat scroll for running Flame Gauntlet. The other way you will get skill points each game is by reaching a new safe zone. Upon entering, you will get the same prompt that will make you choose 1 out of 2 skills to learn or upgrade. You are able to skill all your abilities to level 3 if you get enough skill points. There's also the Scroll of the Zealot, which grants you a chance of 80%, 90% and 100% to loot a skill point upon exiling an enemy player. Basic gameplay. You can play this game in solo, duo or squad mode. At the beginning of each round after the lobby, you will have to choose between a lot of random portals that will throw you onto the map at certain locations. You can briefly see which other portals were taken by other players. They will switch from blue to grey before you choose your own and get sent out. The portals seem unavailable when they are grayed out, but don't worry, they are not. You can also take the same portal. You can also place a marker for your team members at a specific location by using right click. You open the map by pressing the M key. The flying at the start of the round takes some getting used to, but is already working alright. Upon landing, you may encounter items laying around, as well as 4 different kinds of chests and unique mana vaults that containing skill points and or items. In either the Gauntlet, Item, Rune or Epic chest, you may encounter these specific items as well as other items. A Gauntlet chest will mainly contain gauntlets, but could also contain a rune. A rune chest may contain a belt or amulet, and so on. Each item also has a rarity level, which starts at common, followed by uncommon, rare, epic and finally legendary, ordered by damage done. While gauntlets are always better the higher the rarity, the other equipment like runes for example are based more on preference. You may like playing with teleport, which is a rare rune, better than playing with the Wolfblood rune, which is epic rarity. It is recommended to try and get gauntlets first, since your basic attacks left and right click without gauntlets does a measly 10 damage without any additional effects or sorceries available, while it even drains a bit of your mana. To call out the position of enemy players, you can use the compass at the top of the screen where you see coordinates. You can interact with most things like looting items and collecting mana vaults by pressing the interact key, which is F. So pay respects. Or you can use the tab key to pick up items more precisely. All keys I mentioned and will mention are the standard key bindings. Your goal when looting will be to get the best item build for your current specializations. although you may often not have the time or peace to get too far with that. It is usually good to at least have every possible inventory slot equipped that I mentioned in the beginning. You can then aim to get into action and taking on other players or squads, or playing it safe and trying to be the last one standing without making too much of a mess, which is the actual goal of this game, being a better Royale title. Just do whatever is more fun to you, honestly, but I can tell you this much: the combat in this game is absolutely fun and not that easy to execute at first, so be patient, guys. Movement and movement enhancement. Your basic movement includes normal running with the standard WASD keys, which is common in most games and shouldn't be a problem for you. Furthermore, you can crouch with the C key, which is good for taking cover behind small rocks or buildings, while you then can use the third person view to look while behind those structures. There's also the boots of the mouse, which gives you invisibility when crouching. To get on buildings or dodging attacks, you can use jump with spacebar. Pressing it twice will result in a double jump, which will get you even higher in the air. Additionally, you may get boots such as boots of sprinting, which if you wear them will make your sprints 25% faster. Or boots of leaping, which enhance your jump, so that you can jump 3 times now. Some classes also have movement buffs, like the first starting scroll of the Conduit class, which will give you bonus movement speed. You can also use the Wind Gauntlet as mentioned before to hop far into the air, which is great for additional movement, looting and combat if you have to reach other players that are jumping around like absolute mad lads. A bunch of fights will actually occur mid-air, pretty badass by the way. But keep in mind that you will fall slower when you shoot while you're in the air, so you're easier to hit. Runes can be used with the R key. A majority of the runes are movement related, for example the Featherfall rune, which will launch you into the air and make you slowly descend when holding spacebar. Or Shadow Step, which will teleport you a short distance and grant stealth for a short time. While the Blink rune comes along with 3 charges to blink forward, which is amazing to dodge players' abilities. You can even blink in the air by looking at the sky. You usually combine your jumps with wind attacks and your rune to move around the map and in fights in various ways. So learning the movement of this game is the key to success. Consumables. As mentioned earlier, you can use health potions to heal yourself and armor shards to regain armor. There are currently 2 types of health potions and the same amount of armor shards in this game, which are the following. The following items' abilities can also strengthen these effects. The Zone. The zone in this game works almost just like in other VR titles. A timer will start on the top right of your HUD that will show when the first safe zone will start. From there on, the safe zone of the next circle will be random. The major difference is that you get to choose a scroll as you enter a new safe zone. The damage ramps up as in other BR games. Each zone deals more damage than the previous one. This chart will explain it more detailed. Since we just talked about damage, let's get to the point where you die. In solo mode you will normally be executed, but in the group modes duo and squad you will get disrupted at first and turned into a ball of light. In Spellbreak you're immune to outside damage while disrupted, but enemies can exile you if they channel on you for 5 seconds, which is the same for reviving teammates. Otherwise you will stay disrupted for 60 seconds, or until you are revived or exiled. Both of which can be done while invisible, while taking any damage during channeling will interrupt it. If you play smart and don't hesitate, you will get to victory, I promise. To make the game even better, I highly recommend to fill out the survey, which you can find at the lobby screen. This way you can provide feedback to the devs. Alright, that's it heroes, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, please leave a like or even a subscribe. And if you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down and write in the comment section what I can possibly do better next time. Thank you and play smart!